Good afternoon and welcome to Behavioral Neuroscience Spring 2024. My name is Dr. Eric Olson, or Eric, and I am going to be your professor for this semester. I earned my PhD in neuroscience at Wake Forest University School of Medicine and earned undergraduate degrees in biology and psychology before that point in time. I have primarily studied the effects of dopamine release during motivated behavior and but have a long-standing fascination of all topics related to behavioral neuroscience, and am happy to guide you through that subject this term. Now, I will share the syllabus with you and briefly walk you through that. So this is an asynchronous online class, meaning that by design, we will never have to be in the same place at the same time. Uh, Instead, we are going to run on a very consistent schedule of events. In this class, it will be in 2-week increments that involve more in-depth critical thinking, in addition to studying a variety of lecture content topics and taking a quiz. So active participation is required for this class, in addition to this older version of the book chapter. I have looked into the newer version, and it is considerably more expensive without providing, too much useful new information. But I am looking into options to upgrade to a newer version, or just completely eliminate the textbook completely, which does uh, take a lot of planning to do. But anyway, for now, just know that I try to get you the cheapest book available, is what I'm trying to say. Participation is important. For this class, you are responsible for all quizzes and all critical thinking paragraphs, and of course, an essay as well. If you need to miss a discussion, let me know, and we can try to find some alternative option. But it is expected that that would have to be an extraordinary circumstance. It is expected that all students participate in all quizzes in this class and all critical thinking paragraphs. I will drop your lowest critical thinking paragraph grade if enough students participate in the FCQs. I do realize that this will take at least 15 hours of work per week, but I think that is reasonable, and the amount of work should be right on about that 15 hours of work a week. As a late policy, you get one unpenalized 48-hour makeup for one assignment. After that, I will not be accepting makeup work unless we have some prearranged agreement or you have unprecedented circumstances. For example, you were just deployed to a foreign country to fight in a war. I've had that one happen. Uh, so yes, that would be an unprecedented circumstance. Those do happen. And in general, I'm very open-minded to these sorts of unprecedented circumstances. I think of accommodation broadly, even if you don't necessarily have a contract worked out with the accessibility office and you think that you need some sort of additional accommodation, let me know. Let's at least talk about it. Don't feel ashamed or afraid to contact me or scared about these things. Life happens, and I realize that. To do well in this class, I think it's very important to learn and stick to the schedule of events. We occur on a very cyclical pattern in this class by design. If you learn to follow that pattern, you're going to do well. Uh, if on When we encounter difficult contexts, topics in lecture for you, I think it's most effective to try to teach these concepts out loud to a friend, a peer, or even the wall or a stuffed animal or your dog. Saying the words out loud in your own voice will help you learn them much more efficiently than trying to listen to me passively through lecture alone or just rereading your notes to yourself in your head. For the essay that you have to prepare, I highly recommend that you consult the experts in the Writing Center. They know a lot more about writing than I do. Why on earth wouldn't we go and seek out their opinions on grammar over mine? And in addition, I will also point out that you are paying for this service. If you do not use it, you are throwing your money away. You have one 30-minute attempt for each quiz. If you've taken some of my other classes, know that the quizzes in this class tend to be a little longer, but you also have 2 full weeks of content and these sorts of things, a little more content as well. Um, all content in the exams will come from the lecture, not the book. I view the book here as a supplement that helps you understand my lectures when there's information that you're missing. I'm never going to pull in questions from the book that I do not cover in lecture. The only exception is that in each quiz, 1 to 2 questions will come from students. When you review the critical thinking material that accompanies my lecture, you have to create a multiple choice question. I always pick 1 or 2 of these to include on the quiz. So the only exception to this would be on the student generated questions, but that is from the critical thinking material that you are also responsible for reading each week. Again, I do see the textbook as more of an optional resource that's there for you when you need it. For each module, you also have to prepare a 200 to 300 word summary of your thoughts of a critical thinking topic. These will, and some there are actual two recordings or papers that you would have to read or consume. Here are some of the topics we'll consider. First, the neuroscience of mindfulness meditation. This being a clinical psychology department, you have been exposed to a lot of mindfulness meditation, but probably haven't considered the neuroscience of it very much. So I think it's important to do so. So that's what we do first. Then we will go over Michael Shermer, who is an old, and I mean old, this is going to seem ancient to you, this recording, but I'll also point out that that means it's actually quite timeless. Even though it looks like it's from the 1970s or 60s, and it is, this topic is as relevant today, if not more relevant today, than it was in the 60s and 70s. And then we'll hear Tali Shiro, give us sort of a similar idea from more of a neurocentric and modern viewpoint or perspective. Then we'll hear from Dan Reisel on how neuroscience might inform restorative justice in society. Then we'll hear from Robert Sapolsky on what makes us human. This next one is sort of hit or miss. It depends a little bit on how much you love music, but it gets into the interactions between music, brain, and behavior. It's sort of a unique format because it's just a panel discussion, so it's not going to be as entertaining as some of these. But this is how this is how everything gets made in the back rooms at these scientific conferences. It's a whole bunch of experts sitting around just chatting about how music and the brain and behavior interact in society. And yeah, I can just go ahead and tell you that's one of the more divisive ones. Some people find it boring. Some people find it very important. Hopefully you don't completely hate that one. Then we'll go into consciousness a little bit. We will hear from Damasio and Hoffman when we consider that. Then we'll touch on gender identity. Here we'll hear from Eric Kandel, who's sort of the poster child of experts in neuroscience. He won the Nobel Prize in medicine, in physiology and medicine, for his discoveries involving LTP and plasticity. He shared that with Paul Greengard and the name's blanking on me, of course, off the top of my head. And the other one's the dopamine researcher of all things, the one that I should definitely remember, is Swedish. He's actually the reason that we don't fluoridate water in some places. He was a big stickler of that. Anyway, his name will come to me in a minute. But anyway, he will head this panel with Ben Barres, who recently passed away. Ben Barres was one of the leading neuroscientists that studied glia. Of note, he was, probably the most prominent, well-known neuroscientist who is also a transgender individual. Of note, I've heard him speak multiple times. And in addition to speaking on glia, which is what he was really known for, and neuroscience and gender identity, he also spoke a lot about his transition from being, a female identifying person to a male identifying person, and spoke a lot about how that made him realize what women have to go through in science as well, especially at the time, a few decades ago, women didn't have as many opportunities at science, and you saw prevailing attitudes like that promoted by Larry Summers, the president of, well, one of the few presidents of Harvard ago, arguing that there are more men in science because men are simply better at science and math. Ben Barres would disagree with that sentiment very strongly, I think, as most of you would. I would hope. Um, you know, so uh, anyway, my point is that Ben Barres is a brilliant person that brings just very impactful perspectives to all of this, and is a great person to listen to when we consider the neuroscientific insights into gender identity. And finally, we'll close out by hearing Oliver Saxon and Neil Seth talk about what are the differences between, well, what is reality, right? I mean, reality from a neuroscientific perspective comes from the brain. And then if so, then your reality should be a little different from somebody else's reality. And, if you have two people from different spheres of the political spectrum, they might, what is real to them might be actually quite different. And then along the same lines, like what is difference between reality and when you are hallucinating? And what can hallucinations teach us about how the brain creates your perception of reality? So anyway, for that, we'll get into Oliver Sacks, who of course is quite famous. I find his talk here to be a little drier than Anil Seth's, but right, he is Oliver Sacks, right? I mean, let's hear what he has to say. So for each of these units, you will have to prepare that 200 to 300 word thought paragraph, post it, and then respond to at least 3 of your peers' thought paragraphs within 3 days of making your own post. If you are failing to make these responses to your peers, I will deduct points from your critical thinking paragraph. In addition to these module assignments of creating the critical thinking paragraphs and studying my content and taking the quizzes, you are going to be responsible for developing an essay. In the process of this, first you will create an outline, then an annotated bibliography, and then finally an essay after receiving feedback on the first two. For this, you can pick any topic of your choice related to behavioral neuroscience. I've seen everything. I mean, like, everything from the neuroscience of pedophilia to the neuroscience of gender to special considerations on gender affirming care, even. To everything from the neurobiology of addiction to, they're just, you think of the topic that's most interesting to you that you really want to explore further, and this is your opportunity to do so. So first I would like you to develop an outline. To do that, I've created a template here that you can fill out. Uh, Basically, what I'm mainly looking for here is your thesis statement. I want to know if you have created a statement that you can defend using peer-reviewed sources. Think of the thesis statement as sort of like the answer to a research question. Um, you know, uh, right. Does the question could be, does dopamine have more to do with depression than serotonin? If you wanted to argue that you could argue that either in the affirmative or the negative. So, I mean, like one thesis statement would argue that serotonin and SSRIs are still the most promising avenue of neuroscience in the treatment for depression and should be where we are focusing in the future. Alternatively, your thesis statement could be serotonin has failed us, dopamine research in depression is more promising, and that is where we should focus on next. Two very different thesis statements from one research question. Either would be fine as long as you can defend it. So that's what I want to set you up with. And then here's a representative annotated bibliography. This is what I would be looking for here. At least 4 peer-reviewed references with a few bullet points summarizing what you have. And I would like both of those submitted, and you would at least have received feedback on the outline before you start writing the essay. Here you can see the schedule of events. So for each of the modules, and each of these spans 2 weeks, you would need to review the critical analysis material, post your 200 to 300 word thought paragraph, post a multiple choice question that you develop using this material, respond to 3 peers' thought paragraphs, review the lecture material, and complete the quiz. While you're doing this, you need to be preparing your essay in the background. You will submit your outline after Module 3 on October 1. Oh, that's actually the wrong date. I'll give you a new date there. Spring deadline. But yes, it would be due the week of Module 3. And then your final essay would be due at the end of the term. In this case, it is correct, May 11th. Final notes are that your grade will be determined by a combination of all of these things. The quizzes make up about 40% of your grade. Note that there isn't a cumulative final or anything like this, just these 8 quizzes that you will be tested on for the content knowledge. Your critical thought paragraphs will take up about 25% of your class grade. Your multiple choice questions that you're developing will be just under 10% of that grade. And then your essay total will be about 1/3 of your class grade. You need to create the outline, the annotated bibliography, and then the final essay, which is due during finals week. I would like to just touch on the critical thinking discussions that we'll be having. First, that discrimination is very important to me. If you feel that you or one of your peers are being discriminated against by me or another student, please bring that up. One resource that you could report us to would be the CU Denver Office of Equity. Here's their phone number and their email address. Do know that in this class, we are going to be discussing many sensitive subject matters, and all viewpoints are welcome. Know that we come from different backgrounds and perspectives, and that is a great strength for these discussions. Know that your peers in the future, like in your places of work, could come from different backgrounds as well. So being able to engage with people that have different opinions and backgrounds on these sensitive subjects can be very important for your development. Do know that we will discuss very sensitive subject matters such as mental health issues, mental hospitals, even prisons. I mean, we're going to talk about that very directly when we talk about restorative justice. Intersectional matters involving race, sex, and gender are certainly going to come up. Death, suicide, war, and even sexual assault can come up at times in this class. For sexual assault, the one thing that I think comes to mind the most would be instances of, neuropharmacological date rape. One, I think, great example here is ketamine. I'll just go ahead and mention this now. Let's go ahead and bring it up. Ketamine, is an NMDA receptor antagonist that is, some arguing, is very effective in treating depression. Of note, it can reduce suicidal ideation, another sensitive subject here, very rapidly, much more so than SSRI. So therefore, it could be a game changer. It could actually prevent suicide. However, there's also a dark side to ketamine. It is used to handle people. It is used to sedate people and also causes amnesia. It makes it very hard to remember what is happening when you're under the influence of it. Therefore, it is a fantastic tool of abuse. I think we've just seen what can happen when that sort of effective use and abuse line is blurred in the context of Elijah McClain. But in addition to being used to just deal with a rowdy, someone who is deemed to be rowdy, to someone who is in the position of power with this drug in their hand, this drug is also used to prey on people. It is frequently used for date rape. And for that reason, I am very concerned about normalizing the use of ketamine. If ketamine is everywhere, I also think that means that more people are going to be being abused by ketamine against their wishes. And I think that is something that needs to be taken into account. And, if we are going to start using ketamine for depression, we need to do so in a very controlled setting. Uh, the idea of outpatient ketamine therapy, especially, is very scary to me. But already it seems that it's everywhere. So I think we've already almost gotten to this point. It's quite easy to order. But that is what I'm talking about. These are, I think, sensitive matters that can be very challenging. And if you find yourself in a position or in a conversation that is emotionally distressing to you, know that you can excuse yourself from that conversation. If this is a discussion grade that you're responsible for, let me know, and I will try to find a alternative mechanism for you to earn full credit without having to sit through this discussion that is having a negative impact on your mental health. Please let me know if you have any questions throughout the class. The virtual office is one way to contact me in addition to email. I'm also very happy to set up Zoom meetings on a case-by-case basis.